Hello everyone. In this series of the videos, we have already discussed in detail about the root, stem and leaves of the flowering plant or angiospermic plant. Now from this video, I'm going to start with next part of the flowering plant, that is flower. Okay. So flower is the most important and conspicuous organ of the angiospermic plant that differentiate this type of plant from all other plants of kingdom Plantae. Okay, that means we know that kingdom Plantae having 5 different divisions like algae, bryophyta, pteridophyte, gymnosperm, and angiosperm, and out of which only angiospermic plant have ability to produce flower. Okay, and we can define flower as highly modified and condensed shoot. It is highly modified and condensed part of the shoot system, which specially designed for sexual reproduction. So this is the definition of the typical flower. We can say that it is highly modified and condensed shoot, and main function of the flower in angiospermic plant is sexual reproduction. Okay, it's the organ which mainly involved in the reproduction process. Okay, if we want to study the structure of the flower, then we should start with a stalk-like structure, and now the stalk of the flower, also known as stem of the flower, is called as pedicel. Okay, and the flower which have this pedicel is called as pedicellate flower. Or stalked flower. Sometime flower is showing a different structure, okay, other than this pedicel, okay, and such flowers are called as non-pedicellate flowers or sessile flower. That means if flower stem is present, it is called as pedicellate or stalk flower, and if the pedicel is absent, in that case we can call it as a non-pedicellate or sessile flower. Okay, sometime you may observe a leaf-like structure, okay, attached to the pedicel. That means this type of flowers arise from the axil of small leaf, and this leaf is nothing but the bract. So if the flower having bract, it is called as bracteate flower. While some flower do not show such type of bract, okay, and they are called as ebracteate flower. Now the terminal end of the pedicel is get swollen, become flat and expand in the structure, and now this expanded part of the pedicel is called as thalamus. So thalamus is nothing but the expanded terminal end of the pedicel. Now this is the point from where different floral parts arise. Okay, thalamus is the site from where different floral whorls arise. Okay, and if you observe thalamus carefully, you can easily see 4 different type of rings or nodes present in the thalamus. Okay, so thalamus contain 4 compressed condensed nodes, which is ring like structures, and from each node one floral parts arise, which is called as floral whorl. So typical flower in angiospermic plant have 4 floral whorls. Okay, and they are calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. That means thalamus of the flower give rise to 4 different type of floral whorls in angiospermic plant flower, and they are calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium. Okay, all these 4 whorls are divided into 2 main groups. Okay, so first group of the floral whorl is called as accessory or non-essential whorls, while next group is essential whorls. Out of these 4, first 2, that is calyx and corolla, come under accessory or non-essential whorl. So examples of accessory whorl is calyx and corolla, while example of essential whorl is androecium and gynoecium. The classification is based on involvement of the floral whorl in sexual reproduction. Okay, these non-essential whorls, that is calyx and corolla, do not directly take part in the sexual reproduction, while the essential whorls androecium and gynoecium is directly involved in the process of sexual reproduction. Okay, the first calyx is the green structure which is the outermost part of the flower, and this green structure arises from the node of the thalamus. Okay, so you can give it green color. This is the outermost part of the flower, and the main function of the calyx is protection of the inner structures of the flower in bud condition, as well as it is green in color, it contains chlorophyll pigment, so that it can also perform photosynthesis and produce organic foods, okay, for the growth and development of the plant. So calyx is outermost whorl, and the individual member of the calyx is called as sepal. That means this individual member of the calyx is called as sepal. Sometimes the sepal may find fused, okay, but here we have shown separate sepals, okay, and these sepals combinedly make calyx, and as I told, the function is protection and photosynthesis. Now, next floral whorl which come under non-essential group is corolla. It is the whorl, and individual member of the corolla is called petal. Okay, they are bright in color. Suppose this is one petal. This is another petal. They are bright in color, and main function of the petal is attraction of the bird and insect for pollination. So this is petal. And group of a petal or corolla is made up of all the petals which is present in the flower. So individual section of the corolla is called as petal. It is the second whorl, and main function of the corolla is attraction of insect and bird for the pollination purpose, as well as the petal also play role of protecting inner essential whorls. Okay, so androecium and gynoecium get protection from corolla. Okay, remember that the individual member of the calyx is sepal, while the individual member of corolla is petal. The main function of the calyx or sepal is protection as well as photosynthesis, and function of the corolla is attraction of the insect and bird for the pollination and protecting the inner essential whorls. Okay. Now, sometime in flower we can see both these whorls combined with each other. Okay, that means instead of calyx and corolla, a different whorl is present in the flower, and such whorl is called as perianth. Okay, so in some flower, instead of calyx and corolla, you can find perianth, a different type of non-essential whorl, and individual member of the perianth is called tepals. Okay, it is different from sepals and petals, so we call it as a tepals. Now, the next two whorl, which are very important, are come under essential whorl part group because they directly take part in the sexual reproduction process. Number one is androecium. It is the male reproductive structure of the flower, and androecium is generally made up of stamen. That means individual member of the androecium is stamen, and stamen consists of two parts. A long hair-like filament called as anther and filament part. And now this anther and filament together made stamen. Okay, so androecium consists of long thread-like structure called filament and a swollen part called anther, and anther and filament together made stamen, and all the stamen of a flower combinedly called as androecium, because this anther is the part, or anther is the point where pollen grains are produced. Okay, now the main function of the androecium is production of the pollen grains. The last part, which is female structure in the flower, is called gynoecium, and individual member of the gynoecium is carpel. Okay, and carpel made up of three different structures, that is stigma, long slender tube called style, and swollen structure called ovary. Okay, so ovary is the site where female gamete is produced. So first part of the carpel is stigma, then next part is style, and the third part is ovary. Okay, stigma is the portion of the gynoecium which is responsible for receiving pollen grain which come from the anther. Then this style carry the pollen grain up to the ovary, and inside the ovary female gamete is present. Okay, so main function of the gynoecium is production of the female gametes or eggs. So a flower which have all the type of floral whorl, that is calyx, corolla androecium and gynoecium is called as complete flower. Okay, so flower can be divided into two types, that is complete flower and incomplete flower. Okay, complete flower have all four type of floral whorl, while incomplete flower lack one or more floral whorl. That means either calyx or corolla or androecium and gynoecium is absent in a flower, which is called as incomplete flower. Okay, so this is all about the introductory part of the flower. Okay, in this lecture we have discussed about the pedicellate or stalk flower, the flower which have pedicel or the stalk. Then non-pedicellate or sessile flower, that means the flower do not show presence of the pedicel or flower stem. Then bracteate flower means the flower which have a bract, a small lip-like structure. And ebracteate flower, that means the flower which do not show the bract. Then thalamus is the terminal swollen end of the pedicel. Okay, and thalamus is the portion from where different floral whorl arise. Flowers show four important floral whorl like calyx, corolla, androecium, and gynoecium, out of which calyx and corolla come under non-essential accessory whorl group, while androecium and gynoecium come under essential floral groups. Okay, now calyx and corolla that do not take direct part in the sexual reproduction. The individual member of the calyx is sepal and individual member of corolla is the petal. We have also discussed about the function of calyx and corolla. Then perianth is nothing but the another type of a floral whorl in which instead of calyx and corolla, flower have a separate or different whorl called perianth. Individual member of the perianth is tepal. Then essential whorl include androecium, which is the male reproductive structure, and gynoecium, which is the female reproductive structure. Individual member of the androecium is called stamen, which is made up of anther and filament, while the individual member of the gynoecium is called carpel, which is made up of stigma, style, and ovary. We will going to discuss about few more concepts of the flower in our next video. Thank you.